We're tracking developments following the death of Pope Francis at the age of 88. He died at his residence in the Vatican's Casa Santa Marta. The Vatican announced his death this morning after his battle with a life-threatening case of pneumonia in both lungs. Pope Francis became the first Latin American pontiff in 2013 and was one of the oldest popes in the church's history. Pope Francis was often referred to as a voice of the poor who overcame fierce resistance to reshape the Catholic Church. The Vatican Camerlengo, Cardinal Kevin Farrell, said, quote, "He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized," end quote. Pope Francis' last public appearance was for an Easter Sunday blessing just yesterday at the Vatican's St. Peter's Square in front of delighted crowds after a brief meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Well, let's tell you what we know about the life and times of Pope Francis.
Born on the 17th of December 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Jorge Mario Bergoglio would go on to change the course of the Roman Catholic Church. In 2013, he made history, the first pope from the Western Hemisphere, the first from South America, and the first member of the Jesuit order to ascend to the papacy. He chose the name Francis, a nod to Saint Francis of Assisi, the humble saint known for his care for the poor and the planet. His leadership brought sweeping reforms and a renewed spirit of inclusion. His 2015 encyclical Laudato Si, Praise Be to You, called the world to action against climate change, marking a historic shift in the Church's role in global stewardship. He championed unity across faith and extended unprecedented apologies to survivors of clergy sexual abuse, calling for justice, healing, and accountability. The son of Italian immigrant, he once studied to become a chemical technician and briefly worked in food processing. But at 21, a near-fatal bout of pneumonia altered his path, and perhaps his purpose. He entered the Jesuit novitiate in 1958. By 1969, he was ordained a priest, and just 4 years later, he became the head of the Jesuit province in Argentina. By 1992, he was appointed auxiliary bishop of Buenos Aires, then archbishop. In 2001, he was named a cardinal. He was quiet, humble, but deeply principled. When Pope Benedict XVI resigned in 2013, the Church turned to him. On the fifth ballot of the conclave, he was chosen, and the world met Pope Francis. He was the people's pope, a pastor of the poor, a reformer, and a bridge builder. On Easter Monday, Pope Francis died at the age of 88. His legacy, however, lives on in the heart of millions, and in the Church, he helped reshape for a new generation. Pope Francis, a pope of first, a pope of faith, a pope who dared to lead differently.
Let's bring in Director of Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Lagos, Very Reverend Father Anthony Goduna. He joins me on the midday news. Thank you for joining us on the news this hour, and our condolences for the demise of the Pope. Pope Francis, no doubt, was a historic figure, first Latin American Pope, a reformer, a champion of the poor. And despite his decline in health, we saw him appear in St. Petersburg just yesterday before his death. What would you say was his most defining contribution to the Church and the world? How do you think he will be remembered?
Yeah, good day, and thank you for having me at this your news hour. Indeed, the legacy of Pope Francis cannot be overemphasized in terms of his achievements in his 12 years of papacy. I would say that the most achievable phrase one can qualifies him with will be his joyful expression of the gospel to all and sundry, especially the most vulnerable, the poor, and those who are on the edge of the world. So I would say that is the specialty, the special characteristic that you can ascribe to Pope Francis as a person and as a pope.
Well, the transition period is on now, and all eyes on who becomes the next pope, especially when you consider Pope Francis passing and the commencement of the conclave process in earnest. Can you briefly explain what happens next, from funeral rites to electing a new pope?
Well, as it is right now, it is expected that all the cardinals electors, that is the cardinals that are eligible to vote in new pope, all of them would have been by now communicated with that the pope has passed, and then they begin to mobilize themselves to get to Rome as soon as possible. In the next 7 days, I believe that they will all be in the Vatican to begin the process of what is called conclave in the Catholic Church. The conclave is the special convocation of the cardinals electors who gather together in the special arena to vote the Pope. And of course, as he has died, there are a number of things to be taken care of. The Camerlengo, that is the Papa Chamberlain, if you like, will at this point in time officially announce the death, breaks his fisherman's ring, that is the Pope's customized ring, will be broken officially, and then his shoes and all these things are the things that will be shown to the cardinals when they come to Rome. That's cardinals elector to confirm that he has died, and then thereafter a number of processes will ensue, which will involve the alignment and the processes of different regions in the world and all that. Then to pick out the candidate nomination of candidates that will now be considered for election. So it is a whole lot of procedures that cannot be entirely explained at this media encounter. So, but definitely the church, you can trust the Catholic Church ever prepared for such eventualities.
Pope Francis did appoint a record number of cardinals, many from the global south. Do you think the next pope will come from Africa or even Latin America in continuing his legacy of decentralization?
Well, you can never rule out any possibility, because if he himself was a pope elected from a little known region of the world, who says that it cannot happen again? Okay, at the moment now there are about 6 candidates that are being purported all around, but there can be a lot of surprises. Even himself, his election was a surprise to many. So of course people will do their permutations out there, but we can never rule out the fact that if he had become pope from a little known region where the church subsists, why not? You can have from the Asia, you can have from Africa, you can have from Latin America still. So it all depends on the percentage of the possibility of these different regions producing the Pope.
Interesting days ahead in that regard. Nigeria, no doubt, has one of the fastest growing Catholic populations. I'm wondering how you think Pope Francis' papacy influenced the church here, and what should Nigerian Catholics take from his teachings, or one lesson you believe Catholics, especially Nigerians, should carry forward from Pope Francis' life?
Yes, of course, Nigeria is not at the background when it comes to Catholicism. We have a very vibrant church where you have a lot of new converts who are joining the church every day. And so I believe strongly that Pope Francis' papacy has greatly influenced our thoughts and our actions towards the most vulnerable. The need to always make a consideration. It is called the option for the poor, or every time option for the poor, to have the love of God at heart, to be merciful like the Father. You will recall that it is during this papacy of Pope Francis that we have a surge in the Catholic Church all over the world. Today we are talking about 1.4 billion Catholics, and recently there is even a surge of converts in Europe, and so also is Africa and is Nigeria. So I'm sure Pope Francis will live in the memory of many Catholics for the many years to come.
Director, Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Lagos, Very Reverend Father Anthony Goduno, thank you so much for talking to us on the news this hour.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
We'll return with more stories after this break. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away.